Why don't they work? The corporate model that we've all been institutionalized with is that they're static in nature. They're mostly there to cover liability, and they're not written by the end user. So they become outdated really quickly. Now, what we've done is we've created our signature super toolkits. What these are easy to make dynamic documents that continuously improve efficiency.
Hey everybody, today I am super excited to be joined by Kris Ward. Kris is an author, a podcaster, a coach, and a speaker, and is known in the industry as the team building and systems strategist. She's creating a movement where your business supports your life instead of consuming it, as outlined in her book, Win the Hour, Win the Day, which is her philosophy. Kris, welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Brooke. I can't wait to dive into this.
I'm excited too, because it's funny. It's like the universe is always putting the right guest in front of me at the right time, because I was just having this discussion with my husband about how I'm not very nice to myself with my schedule. And I need to just give it to someone else. Someone else needs to be responsible for my schedule, because I'll just book myself back to back, not take breaks, all that stuff. So very excited to have you talk with me and the audience today. But I always have to ask the first question. What made you do this whole crazy thing of going out on your own?
You know what? I don't know, really. I think I was into business before I understood what it was. It was just always there. Like when I started babysitting at 13, and I counted the days I wanted, babysitting. But I did everything I could right from the get-go to separate myself from the other babysitters. And I had packages and rebooking things and all kinds of stuff like that. And when they left chips behind, I wouldn't eat them because it was like that would cut into their overhead. Like I took this I was serious.
You were born this way.
I was hungry. I'm like, no, they have to pay me. I'm not adding to their overhead. People, grown up adults buying chips probably would not have noticed the overhead that I was calculating. But anyhow, so one thing just led to another, and it was something on the side and kept growing until I just said, oh, I think this is my jam, and let's see what it looks like.
I love that story. And it sounds like really you were just this was always your mindset, which is probably why you are the way you are, which we'll get into that. But what kind of clients do you serve? So who are you normally helping with your systems and team building and all of the amazing things that you do?
Yeah. So I tend to work with entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, founders, small business owners who have been in business usually at least 5 years, often a lot longer. And what happens is they look great on paper, and they may be a podcaster or have a book or a business, it's been alive and well, and they're making an income, but they're working way too many hours for where they are at this point in their journey. And like you said, Brooke, they're not kind to themselves. And here's the thing, everybody listen, if you hear yourself say this, once I get past this next thing, ding, 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 that's an alarm bell, because there's always that next thing. Oh, we're just getting this launched or that launched or the holidays or all these different things. But it's like, no, if you don't have the infrastructure, the capability to be moving with a determined plan and always being able to get your ideas to execution efficiently without it taking its toll on you and your family time and, your sweat, and your, what I call your burnout budget. Are you burning through your burnout budget? Then we should probably talk.
I am obsessed with the term burnout budget. I can't wait to talk about that more. But let's talk about systems and standard operating procedures. I know it feels unsexy, but to me as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure some of you who are listening or watching feel the same way, this is literally what makes our businesses sexy to our clients when we're super organized. So could you start by explaining what a standard operating procedure is, what a system is, and why they are critical for success in a marketing agency?
They are. Listen, may I back up a moment and give you a piece of information before I dive into that, because I think that question is so powerful, but I want people to understand from a bigger perspective how this comes into play in your life. So when I started my agency and I was focusing on marketing and market messaging, what I did, like you, Brooke, is especially the first couple of years, I worked insane hours. I was working like 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
And my husband said I was always stealing from sleep, getting up earlier and earlier and staying later and later, right? I remember one night thinking, oh my gosh, it's 2:00 in the morning. There's laws in the land to protect me. Like you couldn't work for somebody and abuse yourself this way. Lucky me, I had a loophole. I was working for myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was told about the 2-year mark that I was losing some of my charm. And I thought, oh my gosh, my husband was my biggest fan. I cannot have this. So I literally went from working 16 hours a day down to 6. Now that did not happen overnight. That's a whole story on its own. However, luckily I did this because a couple of years after that, my husband was diagnosed with colon cancer and I was pulled away from the business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I returned after his passing, the local business community had no idea of my absence. They didn't know what was going on. It was something we kept very private in nature because we were very positive about his journey. My clients knew nothing. And they kept saying to me, how could you have been away and we not know? Right. And so then they started to ask me like, hey, if you could do that, maybe you could help me get to my kids' soccer games and things like that. And why I tell you the story, Brooke, is so important is life has interruptions. Things happen. Your business should support your life, not consume it. And if, you can't pull away, for a long weekend now, what if something happens in your life? And take the emotion out of my story. I would have returned to a business that if it had failed, I would have had to whip up a resume, try to be charming in an interview and learn a new job. And I was not in the headspace for that. So this is what happens when we streamline our processes. We have a business that sustains itself.
Yes, a business that sustains itself. Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for that preamble. So to your question is SOPs. Why do we need them? Well, listen, any successful business in the world is not run on memory, right? So this is like the recipe to get things done. Now, I know why they don't sound sexy because we all have experience in the corporate world where we've got these standard operating procedures and they just don't work. And here's why. So then you think, I have my own business. I am never doing that again. Because listen, I don't know if I'm the only one to ever have a job. On the first day, they give you a manual and you can barely lift it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to lose this job because I'm going to fall asleep right here in front of these new people. Right?
It's so true.
And then cut to, 4 days later when they want me to do something, I don't know where that is in that stupid manual. I don't remember any of it. I spent all day trying to stay awake. So standard operating procedures, to your point, are not sexy. And why don't they work? The corporate model that we've all been institutionalized with is that they're static in nature. They're mostly there to cover liability and they're not written by the end user. So they become outdated really quickly. Now, what we've done is we've created our signature super toolkits. What these are easy to make dynamic documents that continuously improve efficiency. And what they're really known for, what separates them, is the language, clarity, and ease of use. Now, why do we need these? So that you are not acting like you have a job. When we had jobs, we had responsibilities that we just did over and over and over again. As an entrepreneur, agency owner, coach, consultant, whatever you're doing, you need to be getting the busy work, the admin work done consistently, effectively, without any mistakes, at a higher level of efficiency, because you have more and more things to do. Maybe you need to write a book, a second book. Maybe you need to start a podcast. Maybe you need more speaking gigs. You always need more bandwidth on your calendar. So you need these admin busy work tasks not to hold you or your team hostage. You need them to constantly decrease in time.
Gosh, that's such great advice. And I love that you call it a toolkit instead of like an SOP, because you say toolkit and I'm like, yes. And like
it's a super toolkit.
You say SOP and I'm like, no. Okay. So let's say I'm an entrepreneur. I am. But let's pretend I have no systems or processes.
Okay.
What are the first steps I need to take when starting to develop these systems or super toolkits or whatever we call them, SOPs, how do I define which processes need a system or a super toolkit?
Well, let's go back to, again, no business is run on memory. No successful business is run on memory. Okay. So anything you're going to do once, you should be able to do 50 times, and you should be able to do it in less time. And here's the big thing, with less brain power. So I'm all about energy management more than time management. Okay. So this is huge, right? So what happens is people don't understand that we sort of chip away we make something like 35,000 decisions in a day. And then you're hopping all over the place. You got decision fatigue, you got attention residue, hopping in and out of emails. So what we want is these super toolkits is you really want something that no matter what you're doing, you can do it faster and more efficient. So here's a quick example. Just yesterday, I was on LinkedIn and I saw somebody do a signature, the way they signed off on their post. I was like, oh, that's a great idea. I like how they did that. So I put it in my super toolkit. So instantly tomorrow, when I go to, do some more postings and give them to my social media manager, now she will instantly start signing it off on that, because our super toolkits just always allowed for more efficiency. We always, what we call cue them, create, use, and edit. So anything you do, anything should be systematized. Why would it not? Because we know the human brain, if you give it a list of 7 items, even things that you commonly know or deal with all the time, you will only remember about 4 of them, and you will rotate the 4 you remember. So we want to save that brain power so that you are capable of doing something with great thought and creativity at 3:00 in the afternoon, instead of depleting your resources as you go through the day.
So good. And I want everyone who is listening to hit that pause button, rewind, and write down the tidbit about cues. Cues are create, use, and edit.
Yeah.
So good. So other than cue, what are some of the components that make up an effective toolkit or SOP? Like, how do you ensure that there's clarity behind it when you are obviously passing it on to someone else, which if you're the entrepreneur listening to the show, you're probably going to have to pass that on to someone else at some point. How do you make sure that they use it in the way it's meant to be used? Okay.
So here's the thing. That's a really good point. You don't really need to pass it on to somebody else, because somebody else could be creating it. So I say the person who sweeps the floor should be buying the broom. And then I also argue that that's the problem with the corporate model. We've all gotten new SOPs, and we know the person who created this did not have the scope and the reality of the job. And you're like, all right, we'll do this, but do you know when we do this, this happens, right? And then it just makes you disregard the whole thing. So what I would say is, when you have a team, a virtual assistant, whatever it is they're doing, they could be making super toolkits, and then you'll work on them together. Like, oh, let's do this together and see, because there'll be different components. Maybe they're setting something up where you have, like, let's say in my podcast, Win the Day podcast, where post-production, I might have 2 or 3 things I do after the show, and then it goes off to my action manager. So she might say something to me like, hey, when you do this, it means I do this. Oh, let's change the super toolkit. Okay, I didn't know that was causing you that. Let's just change it. So that's where we collaborate. But we don't also want to be tied down to this foolish idea of you need time to make these. So many people say, well, I'm really busy, or I'll come in on Sundays, or if I wish I had a week off to make all these procedures. That's what they do in the corporate world traditionally, historically, and they become so outdated. They take so long to make. They're too academic. There's too much information in them. And often they have training mixed in with them. So what you're teaching the end user to do is read something, go, yeah, I already know how to do that. Okay, skip. So training is separate. So when we do our super toolkits, they're really very simple to read. They're like at a grade 3 level. We have a glossary of words that are directive that we use, and things that are vague that we don't use. Like, so often it'll be like explore or review. Well, what's that? That's not a direction, right? So a lot of SOPs are what I call choose your own adventure. And that's where then we all have been subject to such painful ones that didn't work. And then you think, well, I'll never do that in my business. So you don't do it at all.
Okay. So first of all, I love the analogy of whoever sweeps the floor should be the one to buy the broom. And as you were saying this, it made me think of that show, Undercover Boss, where the boss literally goes in and starts seeing how the day-to-day operations work. And they're like, oh, well, why is it being done like that? Or, well, that's not what I meant. Or that's not how it's supposed to be done. Or whatever happens. So you've kind of told us how important it is to involve the team. But do you do like an undercover boss method or a checkpoint where you're seeing how things have and how those iterations have come to fruition like much later?
Here's the beauty of it. You don't really need to do that. So more on my team, I was interviewing her on my podcast, and she said, here's the beauty of it. You only have to remember one thing. And she said, that's everything starts with the super toolkit. So you don't have to remember anything about your job except go to the super toolkit. So the beauty of it also means that no one's in a position of being defensive or dropping the ball or I'm sorry, I forgot, or we changed that 2 weeks ago, but then we didn't have the new paper in, or so-and-so didn't show up. Like there's all these stories, remember, whatever, right? So what happens is you can change on a dime with the super toolkit. So if something didn't get done, if I look and I say, hey, that signature I was talking about on LinkedIn, hey, that's not up there. What happened? It's in the super toolkit. Then they all just say, I didn't use the super toolkit. Like that's the only answer they can come up with, right? So it really does. It just everything gets, there's no big discussion about following through. It either gets done or it doesn't because everything's on the super toolkit.
So the super toolkit is the trust and the verify. Like you trust they're going to follow the super toolkit. And if they don't, the verification's built right in. I love that.
And let me add to that. You really, trust is a powerful word. And here's the thing. You don't really need to trust that they'll use it because they love it. They get excited from it. They feel safe. No one's pointing any fingers. It uses less of their brain power too, right? And so, think about it if you've ever come home from something like, oh, I don't know, like IKEA or anything or a new electronic. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, turn off the TV. You have to concentrate. You open these directions, right? You're like, okay, how does this go? I'm just trying to put together this little table or something, right? And it takes so much brain power. It's the work you have to do before the work you have to do, right? Mm-hmm. And so the super toolkit too, you want your team, even if you're paying your virtual assistant $5 an hour, you want them to be able to whiz through their work, their redundant, repetitive work, so that they have room in their bandwidth in their calendar and their mental capacity to come up with new ideas and be creative. No matter what you're doing, we all have a creative element to our job, but especially, marketing agencies, you really need that creative element. So then you, more than anyone, want to be really efficient with sort of what bleeds out in your brain power. Although maybe I shouldn't say bleed and brain at the same time. But maybe it feels like that for you, right? So that's the beauty of it is it doesn't, once people start using it, they just feel a sense of freedom and a sense of really leaving their work at the end of the day fresh and starting refresh in the morning.
Okay. First things first, I think we need to petition to change SOP language to super toolkit language.
Well, hold on now, because that's my signature program, so you can. But then I have to be international. I have to go with that. So,
and then cite Kris and her book and her way. Anyway, I mean, it's so good. But okay, I love also that you mentioned a VA. Yeah. So something that I've been considering, because I'm not very nice to myself with my own schedule, is a VA. And so from what I hear you saying, it's not me who then has to go, oh, you know what? I came up with this new LinkedIn signature thing. Let me go put it in the super toolkit. I just need to make sure that my VA, or it's like almost like a super toolkit manager, someone is going in and popping that into the super toolkit, and it doesn't have to be the agency owner.
No, 100%. So there's so much I want to unpack with you. All right. So you get me all excited about this because here's the magic. Everyone thinks that it has to come through you and you're the choking point. And I also don't believe in delegating because delegating means the work comes through you. And so it still gets backlogged, right? So first of all, yes, you definitely need a virtual assistant. I mean, and when I also talk about team, I talk about team a lot. So we find, hire, and onboard VAs for our clients. Now, we're not an agency, and why I tell you that is because agencies are just looking for billable hours, and they make the resume look good, and they prep them for the interview, but they don't really know what you need.
Mhm.
We do it because we're going to work with you on your super toolkits and set you up and put infrastructure in play. And as my clients say, get 25 hours back a week within the first month of working with us. But we want that VA to become a leader. We have a leadership program. Now, what happens is even that VA, let's say, with my book, Win the Hour, Win the Day, it's like, oh my gosh, I thought there'd be a parade when I finished writing it. Like, okay, I'm done, right?
Right.
But then you realize, oh, I have to go promote it. So now I need more.
Market it.
Yeah. So now I need more time on my calendar for that. That means my virtual assistant also has more responsibilities. Where I move forward with ambitions and projects, so too they will come. So then they need more space on their calendar and the power of these super toolkits, right? So that's one thing to think of for sure. Now, if you are doing something that you have traditionally done because you've never hired a VA before, that's fine. Then when you're doing it the next time, just hit record on Loom. It's free. And the VA can take and get that transcribed in 30 seconds, start making their first draft of the super toolkit. And if the position is new to them, then you can edit it together.
Oof, yes. Okay. I'm getting excited. Well, I've been excited, but you just mentioned Loom, which is a free tool, which leads me to my next question. Are there specific software tools that you recommend for documenting and managing these super toolkits?
No. So here's the beauty of it. Where people go wrong is you cannot manage a team. And again, a team is a philosophy, not a number. You can have a team of one. You cannot manage them through email or Slack or anything horrific like that. But you do need a project management platform. There's plenty of them out there right now. ClickUp's on the rise. It's incredibly affordable, but the Loom and things like that, that's just a way to get it going. But it's not, we don't want these big complicated softwares. I did this years ago and take you months to learn it. And it's going to be so different once you learn it and it's expensive. No. You just need a basic project management platform. Now, here's the beauty of it. Quick example. A couple years ago, I had somebody who was working with me 3 or 4 years, and it was when the lockdowns were coming out, stopping. And 2 weeks before Christmas, she had found out that she had applied years ago, before the world went insane, to go from the Philippines to Canada as an international student. So we found out 2 weeks before Christmas that she was leaving the job. Now, I will also say she wanted to work part-time because this is a thing. People love working with you, want to stay with you because they feel very independent. They feel valued. They feel like it's their own company. They have so much freedom because you're always moving on to new ideas instead of repetitive work. So anyhow, we needed to hire someone new. I put because I've been doing this a long time for my clients. We did a posting, and then I interviewed and hired Maura through our 12-point hiring process. So Maura started the first week after Christmas. Within the week, she was up to 80% capacity because we just handed her the super toolkits. She knew the job. She just didn't know how we did it. But here's the instructions. And we get this all the time when we, hire VAs for our clients. They're like, this is crazy. Here's all the steps, because they're thrown into this situation with the entrepreneur, usually with their hair on fire, running around. And they can't parent up, and they're trying to pick up the pieces as you're reacting and running. And I don't know where the passwords are. But when somebody says, hey, here's how we post on LinkedIn, here's how and when we do this, and there's the super toolkits, and you already know how to go in the back end, and here's how we manage it. Think of it simple. Like if you're a carpenter, right? It's like you show up somewhere and it's like, okay, I don't need you to teach you how to make a table, but you need to know the measurements of ours.
Right. Right.
And so that's the beauty of the super toolkit is then nothing happened. I wasn't derailed. There was Christmas, a new hire, and I was fine. Within a week, she was at 80% capacity, because there is always stuff happening in your business, a new launch, a new person, or things happen. So you can't be, it's almost like having a car that you say, well, my car does really well in good weather. Well, what's the point of that?
Right. Right.
You got to be able to keep that car on the road if it is raining and if there is a little bit of snow and wind, right? And that's where, you aren't nice to yourself and you work crazy hours and you think, oh yeah, but once I get caught up here or do this and all these, no. The time is now.
Okay. I'm following along. I'm starting to understand. I love the cue. So create, use, edit. If you've skipped ahead for whatever reason, rewind. Don't do that. So let's talk about edit. How often should you review and update things?
That's the beauty of it. You don't need to review and update it. That's where we go back to the SOPs where somebody made it and then it's like, okay, this is done. It took us all month to do it. And then we don't want to adjust them because it was so labor intensive when we missed, blah, blah, blah. Right. And that's why they never get done. With the create, use, and edit, the example I gave is I had saw that signature on LinkedIn. So I just took 2 seconds and added it. There we go. It's a breathing dynamic document that's always improving with efficiency.
So it's just like as needed, those things get added.
Yeah. Or we might, in this day and age where every day we wake up, there's some new AI. I'm waiting for my alarm to go off, my Apple Watch say, okay, now we have an AI robot in your room overnight. You missed the last news press. Here we go. Right. Like it's insane. So you might have a process that you're like, oh, I've been using Descript forever for my podcast. Oh, now we're using this new software platform. Okay. Then you change the super toolkit, delete, add, boom, done. So it's not a matter of reviewing them. It's a matter of you are using them. And tomorrow, if you find that this works better than that, then you adjust it because again, then you can turn on a dime. There is no learning curve. There is no, oh, I forgot to tell so-and-so we're not using that anymore. All this information that's, oh, forgive me, blah, blah, blah. I was late. I should have told. None of that. It's in the super toolkit.
What about, how do you measure success with the toolkit? Because you were mentioning earlier that, some of the people that you work with have saved like 25 hours a week. That's one, feedback system or metric, I guess, that you can use for success. What are some of the other ways where as like a me or somebody who's watching or listening, wow, I did this and now this is happening?
I think it's a little bit like almost like an avalanche. So I had this client, Christine. She came to me as a referral. And I'm not saying it's okay, but this often happens because people come to me and they're just out of control, trying to scale their business and they're just trying to keep up. And what happens is she missed the first appointment with me, like the onset of, hey, can we meet? And so I'm like, okay, it's not, I don't love it, but it happens. So then she missed the second one. And I'm like, okay, who's a fool? We're done. She begged me and said, please, I heard from Janine, like I need to meet. I swear I will show up the third time. I'm like, okay, what's it going to cost me? So I show up. So here she is. Now she said to me, Kris, I don't know how you're going to help me because I deal with businesses with exit strategies, $5-10 million businesses, and I help them with their systems. And I was like, well, I don't know, but I think I can. So cut to, she admitted later that because she was always running off adrenaline, and I often talk about that, are you running your business off adrenaline? So she said she was starting to take sleep medication of different things because her cortisol was so high and her adrenaline was so high. So that's where she was. She was working insane hours. Within the year, and I've got sections from her coaching with me, like just not her even giving testimonial, but on my website, we've got little clippings of things that she said over our coaching time. So within the year, she says she quadrupled her income, decreased her hours down to 1/5. And within the year, she was in Costa Rica for a month with no Wi-Fi. And the VA we found, hired and onboarded for her was running the business. And so to me, it's not these little specific metrics. It's back to starting your day refreshed, leaving fresh, being able to, it shows itself in many ways. One client said to me, oh my gosh, I got 2 new clients this week. And I'm just here to tell you that would have derailed me before. I would have dropped the ball on the other clients. It would have been such a big deal. All of a sudden, that's great. I need the business, but the onboarding process, everything can come at me and it's just seamless. It's like, oh, I can manage this. And it's not, all right, I need this, buckle down. There's a wave coming. But once we get past this thing. So you just see it in your energy. You see it in your clarity. As somebody said to me, it's like calm space instead of noisy busyness in your head. It just is ease and flow of your business. And you'll see your creativity increase because when you're running through the day and you're just trying to get to that next thing and make sure it's all done, that's not how the brain works. It can't be creative as you're in a race. It just can't do both. And if you look at history of humankind and science shows us your best ideas, you're most creative in times of relaxation or play.
I know that's the truth. It's always like the car
Mm-hmm.
or like on a walk. Um, is there a size that this works the best for? Whether you're a solopreneur or what if you have a team of 100? Does the foundation of what you're talking about, do these super toolkits work at any size and any level?
Yeah, 100%. So for the longest time, I was just talking to entrepreneurs and small businesses because, historically we've been institutionalized from the corporate world and saying, so I just kind of assumed that they were using this faulty program so that they were content with it. But now I'm starting to understand from, what we would call small, medium, or large small businesses, somebody with 100, or maybe they've got 5 teams of, 10 or whatever, right? And it definitely works for them because the more people you have and the more services you provide, the more money you can be wasting. I mean, that's why all of a sudden when there's cutbacks, you see a company that's like, okay, well, we're going to cut all this stuff. And we found out we got 40% wastage because we need to pull back and save money. Well, it's because they were wasting money. Mm-hmm. If they had these super toolkits, here's a quick example. It's a really fascinating story where how the production lines are done in Ford and say Toyota. Okay. So Ford and most of the other companies, when something comes down the line, they have important people at the end of the line with a clipboard, white coats. There's a mistake, all the stuff, they catch it, they fix, okay, this has to be fixed. We forgot the cup holder in these cars, whatever the situation is, right? Toyota, anybody on the line can stop the line and say, this has been missed. And their efficiency is something like 77% more effective, and they save millions, a lot of money. Wow. Like, I'm not good with numbers, so I forget the astronomical difference of their efficiency, but that's why their cars were able to be more affordable and they're better made and all these things, is because they are fixing it as they go. Instead of the cost of catching things later and piling up. So they have empowered the line and have systems that are flexible and adjustable to course correct immediately, instead of that hierarchical part that Ford was leaning into.
So this is what you were saying about you add it as needed. You edit as needed. It happens in real time, and then that reduces inefficiencies, time spent, bottlenecks, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah,
that's exactly
that's a great example of that. Okay, are there any ever pitfalls or drawbacks to this system? And how can they be avoided if there are?
So, I don't know, unless you don't like long weekends or more time off, or you're more creative, which brings you more business. If none of those things sound attractive to you, that could be a problem. But so far, we have not seen any of the drawbacks. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, how could you, right? Let's talk about sales and operations and these super toolkits. First, let's start with ops, right? On a previous episode, I talked about how, it took me 10 years to finally pass ops off to someone else, and that changed my whole business. So I'm assuming, though, if I had a toolkit for ops, I could have really been in a better place a lot sooner. So do you have any examples or stories you can share about the super toolkits or SOP systems? Again, whatever we want to call it, but we're calling them super toolkits today. How those help with operations?
Yeah, I mean, they help on every possible level. And here to speak to it more specifically, what I would say is everybody thinks their business is unique. Like, you don't understand what I do is different, right?
Right.
And so here's an example that, especially when I'm dealing with market agency owners and the creative element of that. So I had a client come to me, and she was an interior designer, and she said, Kris, you don't understand. I go into the home, and yes, other people are trained in interior design, but mostly her argument was people just have too much furniture in the room. It's a thing she sees. It's her niche. And she does amazing work with very low budgets. Okay, great. You don't understand, my work is special. So we figured it out. Her average appointment was about 2 hours. But I also argue there's always pre and post work to anything you do, even if your work is like your brain surgeon, right? So we looked at it, and there was forms and things that she was asking them when she arrived, which, by the way, was taking her out of the headspace of design and also a little bit more distracting to the client. So we looked at that to our appointment, and then we were able to get the paperwork done through a virtual assistant ahead of time. And so we got our appointments down to 45 minutes, right? What happened then was she started stacking her appointments in the morning, and suddenly now she's this big MC at, big events where people from Home and Garden Television, are big celebrity guests, and she's rubbing elbows with them, and she's going to write a book. And she said, I wouldn't have been able to do this in a million years because I was tied down to the day. So it really can make operations for anything. And if you have some raw talent that only you could do this one thing, then we can keep you in that lane of doing that one thing. So you give your best creative output consistently while somebody else takes care of the nuances of the pre and post.
Cool. I love it. Great story. And that makes so much sense. I mean, you can see it. For me, I'm a very visual person, so I can see it as you're explaining it. Let's talk about sales. I'm assuming then you have a story or an anecdote where someone like me, for instance, I do the marketing and the sales for B Squared. And I'm assuming if I had a super toolkit or a VA in place to help me, that I would do better with sales.
Yeah. So in that case, now I am a proponent, depending unless your business gets to a certain size. I think at the end of the day, nobody can do sales like you, right? Because you care, it's your thing. And I think it's a little bit like asking somebody to go over and ask somebody else out for you, which worked in like maybe grade 2, but after that, it kind of petered.
What do you mean? That's how I did it.
Yeah. So what I would say though is when I have a sales call, there is a pre and post to that. So now the super toolkit of, what we call her, the action manager, will see on my calendar when I had a sales call because it'll be tagged strategy session. I don't even need to tell her. She checks my calendar every week. Then, that's part of her. We can even get into job bios in a minute that we created if you want. So that's part of her job bio. She checks her calendar and then she says, Kris has a strategy call. Then she goes to the super toolkit and it's all beautifully predetermined what the first email will look like, what the second one, all these beautiful things that stretch out over time of, hey, here's some resources you might like, or here's some things people are saying about Kris. And she just manages that because to your point, even if I had those all pre-written, which most people don't, we always think that last person we spoke to, oh yeah, they're going to, but they just have to check with so-and-so. And so you're on that high of maybe, and then you drop the ball and you don't have the system in place because you think you had this moment with that person where she takes it out of my hands. And so it doesn't matter if they said, listen, worst they can have done is paid before they get that first email. Oh my, no big deal.
Yeah. Whoo, man, my noodle's baked over here. Talk about those job descriptions because you piqued my interest there. So I've heard you say action manager, which I also love. But what are some of those? Give us the goods there.
Okay, we created what we call a job bio. So here's the thing. Job descriptions are usually so vague and ridiculous and they don't really say anything. And if we've all had that job where the last sentence says, and any other responsibilities assigned to you, blah, blah, blah. Like that means, listen, you're going to do whatever we tell you to do. Suck it up, buttercup, right? So what happens is if somebody's away or sick or vacation and that job is replaced, let's take my action manager. She sends out my weekly broadcast on Fridays, to my list. That's just done every week. I don't have to ask her to do it. It's not a new project. It's just done. So if she was away or we changed positions or anything, all of a sudden it would be a couple weeks before we caught on. Hey, oh, right. Kris used to do that. Shoot, right? So we have a job bio. A job bio is responsibilities that they do every day that are not new assignments, that they're just repetitive. And so that way, if she was ill, we could just look and say, oh, what happens Friday? Oh, somebody's got to send out the broadcast. No big deal. Or the beauty is, if we promote her, somebody else can have her job bio. This is what she does. We don't say, oh, right, we forgot. She used to do that. So a job bio or things like if something came up and I have, let's say I'm onboarding you, Brooke, as a new client. It's like, okay, that's happened and it's going to be a super toolkit. It's going to have a deadline. So there we go. But her job bio will be things that she just does, not on memory, because no business is run well on memory. So you don't want her Oh, I forgot about that because it was a long weekend. We had Monday off. You hear those things. No, job bio. That's the difference.
Ah, so good. I can't believe we're already coming up to the end of time, but
Not to the end of all time, everybody. We're okay.
Yes, end of our time together for the show. What would be, for anyone who's watching or listening, and like me, they're like, light bulb moment after light bulb moment. What would be one piece of advice that you would give this person for getting started?
The time is now. The best time, like most things, would have been 5-10 years ago when you started, but the time is now. Do not wait till you get past this next thing, right? It's now. Your business should support your life, not consume it. And business should be fun. If it's not fun, you could have stayed at that job where you probably worked better hours and had benefits and the stress was lighter and no overhead. So business should be fun. And you should not ever have to sacrifice your time with your family, your friends, your loved one. Life is short to be in trade for these dreams. These dreams, the dream is to be spending more time with them. So the time is now. And if hard work was the answer, you'd already be there. So it's not about the grind. And if you listen carefully, Brooke, any successful person that's, got a huge platform and sharing the news of how they made this great thing in their life, what they highlight is the grind part because it's the painful part. And that's the part that's more interesting and makes for good movies and stuff like that. But the growth part, their turning point is when they streamline things, when they started a team, that's when they started to succeed. And they stop the story before they get there.
So good. Well, tell everyone where they can find you, how they can find out more about your super toolkits, your book, all the things. What are you working on? Where can they find you? Where can we connect? Everything.
Yeah. So I'm on all the socials, but I particularly love LinkedIn. So please reach out to me and say you heard me on this fantastic podcast I'm thrilled to be on, and we will be fast friends. To your audience, Brooke, I have something at free gift, free Free, gift, GIFT from Kris, KRIS.com, free gift from Kris.com. It's a free audio version of my book. So you might want to grab that quickly.
I love that. So we'll make sure we put that link in the show notes, but oh my God, that's so good. So I'm going to go listen to that today. When I'm in the car later, I'm just going to pop that in and listen to it. Thank you so much. And we follow each other on LinkedIn, and I have to say, Kris is one of those people who is definitely involved. She's not a lurker, so she's someone you want on your network for sure.
That is a big compliment. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Kris, for being with us today. Everybody, thank you for joining on this amazing journey. Make sure you go back and take notes. I have so many already written down, and we'll see you next time.